Okay, so you've closed all your documents, right? Okay, now follow me. On Windows, under the Edit menu, choose Preferences, General. On the Macintosh, you would choose Preferences, General from the Application menu in the top left corner of your screen. If you'd rather just use the keyboard shortcut, press Control-K on Windows or Command-K on Mac, and we'll all be looking at the same Preferences dialog box. Now you can see here on the left-hand side we have several categories of preferences. We're going to look at all of these different categories. We won't have time to look at every single preference, but I will point out the most important issues for you as we go through the different categories. So we'll start in the general category. There's really just one thing that I want you to change here. That here is the when scaling category. Now, previous versions of InDesign had what was arguably kind of a confusing way to scale content. So that's been significantly improved in InDesign CS3. Just make sure that this second option to adjust the scaling percentage is enabled. That will affect all of your new documents and it will make scaling much easier. The second category we want to look at is the interface. We've already looked at several ways to customize the interface in terms of panels, control panel, and so on, but there are just a couple of other options here. For example, under Tools, you can change your floating tools panel that you see here on the left-hand side of my monitor from a single column to a double column or a single row. I'm going to set mine to double column because that's what I'm most familiar with, and it's more consistent with other Adobe applications that I've been using for years. Throughout the rest of the lessons, I'll make sure that my tools panel is set to a double column. You can set yours up however you want, but that's what I'll be using, so you might want to choose double column just for the sake of consistency. You can also choose how quickly the tooltips pop up. Now, because you might be a new user using InDesign or just getting up to speed on the new features, you might want to choose the fast option. That way you don't have to wait for the tooltips to appear. The normal option has a little bit of a delay, and none might be what you choose when you're a real power user and you don't want any of those tooltips getting in the way. Also note here you have the ability to show thumbnails on place. We've seen that in the very first lesson and you'll see that later on in other lessons, but it's a great new feature of InDesign CS3. It's on by default and I suggest leaving it on. The last item here is to auto collapse icon panels. This refers to these icon panels on the right hand side. So the idea is when you use a panel, it will pop open, you can access the features, and then as soon as you start working on something else, that panel will dismiss itself, basically hide on the side of your screen. Now, if I was customizing my own workspace, I would enable this new auto collapse option. I think this is a great addition to CS3, and it really makes working with the interface easier because panels just kind of disappear when I'm done with them. However, in a training environment like this, I'm going to leave it disabled because we don't want panels just disappearing without expectation. So leave that off. You might want to turn it on later. And for now, we'll jump to the type category.